Shalom Aleichem. אני שמח מאוד לדבר לכם בשפתנו בעברית, כי אני רוצה אתם לדעת שעם אשר בארץ הזה בשביה הם עם ישראל, השקוראים בארץ הזה וגם בכל המקום אשר אלוהינו הפיץ כאדם כה. אנחנו זורקים לדעת שאנחנו העם אשר בספר Bible. We are the people of the Bible, is which I've said in Hebrew, and I've ended with that thought that we're the people of the Bible. You perhaps heard the word Bible at the end of my speaking. And I was saying that the people that came into slavery via the Atlantic slave trade and who have been scattered in the captivities across the planet Earth are the children of Israel, the people known today as black people, and many times they're called Negroes. They're the people that have been stripped of their identity, and this understanding of knowing that we have a language is why I spoke briefly in Hebrew to convince all of those that this is not authentic or that I'm just speaking about religion. I'm not speaking about religion. I'm speaking about the identity of the descendants of former slaves. And this information is being taught all around the world today. There are people that are becoming conscious and are becoming aware of their heritage, their language. This is a consciousness not only for the descendants of former slaves, but it's a consciousness for the world. It's a world consciousness that must take place. It's a consciousness of the experience of the people who were brought into slavery, into the West Indies. Some of them are still under colonial, again, enslavement of our people in Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, again in Ghana, and many other parts of the land of Africa, the motherland. This is a consciousness of the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth that I want to share with you. A consciousness of those laws, statutes, and commandments. It is a truth and a righteousness that will bring happiness and peace to our planet and hopefully even justice, because there's been a great injustice that has been done in denying the so-called Negro or the blacks across this planet not knowing their true identity and not giving them an opportunity to study their language, the Hebrew language, and to return unto their Creator. The religions of the world has also been part of what have our children confused today. They just don't know where to turn. They don't even know that they have an identity in many cases. They don't know that they have a language. And there are no examples out there where they hear their own people speaking the Hebrew language. The language has been alive. In fact, it's called one of the oldest living languages on the planet Earth today. It's spoken in the land of Israel. Europeans have learned it and they call it Ivrit Kaya, which is modern Hebrew. I speak Ivrit Atik more so than Ivrit Kaya, even though many of the words in Ivrit Hakaya, meaning the living language, is the same vocabulary. It's just sometimes the patterns and some new words that are modern words may change, but it's still the language known as Ivrit. Ivrit is not Hebrew. Hebrew is a word that has been derived to say to the world that we are speaking Hebrew, but it's not really called Hebrew in the mother tongue. It's called Ivrit. Ivrit comes from the word avar, which means to pass over. Because our father Abraham, you know him in English as Abraham, he passed over from Ur of the Chaldees into northeast Africa, the promised land, which was called the land of Israel. This information is translated in Bibles in English, and so I'm just giving you what it says in Hebrew and in the deeper understanding. This is why it's important for our people to not just read the Bible, but any scholar or any people on earth who wants to know the true understanding of the Bible, it would be to their advantage to study the Hebrew language, because it's the original language of the Old Testament. And if you're going to be a good Catholic in similar fashion, it would be to your advantage to know Latin, because that's what the Pope will be speaking, and you will understand Christianity even better from that perspective. If you're into Islam, Islam is a language, and the Quran originally is written in Arabic, so that a person who is an Arab, one who is studying Christianity or Islam, it would be to your advantage to know Arabic or the Latin language respectively. Likewise in Hebrew, we study the Hebrew language because we can get the deeper meaning and the original understanding of what the Old Testament of the Bible really says. And it's very important in one's studies to realize that the Bible is really two books with many minor books within those two books, the major books being what is known today as the Old Testament. We as Hebrews know it as the original Testament, and perhaps the only Testament when it comes to us as Hebrew Israelites. However, there's a book that is known as the New Testament. It's a Greek writing. It's basically with a perspective of the continued history of the children of Israel after they were taken into captivity, and that's in the Greek language. Sometimes Syrio Greek is what you will find that original book in. They even have translations in the Hebrew language itself. The New Testament has been translated into Hebrew, although it has no connection with the actual people of the Hebrew nation. There are other Hebrews, because for one to understand the genealogy of the nations, you have to go back to Noah, who was the son of, again, the ancients of days. You go back to Adam, and you'll find out that the genealogy comes up to Noah. He is the man that repopulated the earth with his three sons and their wives. They were called Shem, Ham, and Japheth. You know them as Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The Shemitic people are the people from whence Abraham came. We are Shemitic people. The people of Ishmael, the Arabs, they are also of Shemitic seeds. You have Hamitic seeds, the Ethiopians called the Cushites or Abyssinians. They are of Hamitic lineage. All of this is recorded in the 10th chapter of the book of Bereshit. Bereshit being the book we call Genesis in the English translation. And so that in these writings, you will also find that you have the Japhetic seeds, and the Japhetic seeds are the people of European descent. And it shows you that one man, Noah, is the father of all of the races, whether you are of African descent, Asiatic descent, or European descent. That's why the concept of all men being brothers is literal. It's, again, a fact. And of course, there's more to this as we go prior to this history to see how these branches even develop. But that's not my point at this particular time. Again, we have to realize that the races of the earth and the nations of the earth have to understand that there's one creator that made all of the people on the planet Earth. That's again why we are brothers. We are of one creator who made us all, and some of the problems that are on the planet today stem from the fact that we do not acknowledge what has happened. Yes, there are no people or no nation that has never been mingled with other people. Sometimes it's been on a whole scale basis. Sometimes it's been done because you were taken into captivity and maybe through rape or forced, as in the cases of many mulattoes in what we know the Western Hemisphere. These are facts that took place. In the ancient days, sometimes it was even Shikorim or black people of the ancient world mixing with people of Shikorim of the same pigmentation. The Egyptians and the Israelites were all people of color. However, again, no one looked at color in those days. They looked and judged people by nationality or ethnicity or difference in language and speech. And so again, we find that only in these modern times does the color of one's skin become an issue rather than one's ethnicity, difference in language and culture, difference in who you praise or recognize as gods among the Hebrews. We did not have idols as our God. We were given an understanding that we worship the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth. And this is the original understanding of the people that were born into slavery. Every Bible, Deuteronomy 28, and throughout the Bible, even the prophets speak of the children of Israel being scattered because of their breaking the covenant. The covenant was an agreement between the Creator and our people, the so-called Negroes today, who are indeed the 12 families of Israel. Sometimes they call us the 12 tribes of Israel. But in ancient days and in the Hebrew language, Mate or Mishpachah represented a family. Family that had 12 sons, which were the sons of Yaakov, translated as Jacob. And his name was again changed to Yisrael. Today we say Israel, but in Hebrew we pronounce it as Yisrael. And so we are the people that were cursed because we rejected the blessing of being obedient unto the Torah and to its principles and to its values. Everything that happened to us has been decreed by the Creator of heaven and earth. And he told us that we would go into captivity to nations that we knew not, and that we would serve gods that we knew not, gods of wood and stone. All of this only fits our experience. There's no other people that have had the experience of what the Bible speaks about from Genesis to Malachi, except those that were born into the Western Hemisphere. And we have been under many captivities. The colonial experience has brought us under the Spanish and the Portuguese rule. Some of us appear to be Spaniards or have the Spanish language or Portuguese as our language, as in Brazil and in other Latin American countries where we speak Spanish. But we are a product of, again, the amalgamation, mixing into other nations, assimilations, and even acculturation, where we have given up our own culture and we live by the culture of those colonial masters or owners that ruled over us. So it requires a search of history. One of the things that we as so-called black people, African Americans, we've been deprived of this knowledge of our history, of understanding and connecting the dots as to where were we before we arrived in West Africa. And you'll find that we migrated from Northeast Africa, from the land of Israel. There are writers like Joseph Williams and others that speak about this migration and how we arrived in West Africa as a fulfillment of prophecy that we would be taken throughout the four corners of the earth. And that's why the Atlantic slave trade fulfilled prophecy. And that we're in the Caribbean. We've been under, of course, the British. We've been under the French. There's French-speaking Israelites, and there's documentations that have been produced by Europeans that document and show us all throughout Africa and the French-speaking territories, but they once again have become conscious, and they know that they are of the 12 families of Israel, of the sons of Jacob. And when it comes to how we take our view on the racist perspective of that sometimes Hebrews are viewed as being this racist group of people that only respect those people that are black. No, that's not the truth. That's not our position, because we have a history that shows that Joseph, he had children. Ephraim and Manasseh were by an Egyptian wife, a priest in Egypt. We have the history of Moses, who had Zipporah, who was a Midianite. And again, she was not an Israelite. He had sons, again, that are recorded in the Bible. We have King David, who was the descendant of Boaz, who took a Moabite woman. And that's how we get the King David. It was mixed. It just happened to be people of what we call today pigmentation. But there are no people on the planet Earth that have never been mingled with any other people. Grafting into nations is an act of the Creator. He decides and he determines sometimes who we are going to be married to and what experience we're going to have after we come out of our mother's womb. We have no control over that. And there are reasons for it. Of course, one of the important points that I'd like to make is that it's recorded in the book of Isaiah, the 58th chapter, that the house of the Creator will be a house of prayer for all people. Isaiah even speaks about the time when mankind will beat his plowshares or his swords into plowshares and pruning hooks and study war no more, because we're going to get to the point where we're going to realize that the killing of one another is a violation of the law, murder. This is not the way that we are to settle our disputes. It now has trickled down to our children who hear us say one thing, that we are supposed to be able to manage our anger and have what we call deliberations and conversations to settle our disagreements and disputes, but that's not what the leaders of the world do. And so our children now are taking up those same guns that have been proliferated all over the planet, and they're going and killing people in schools, innocent people. Anyone who has a heart knows that this is sad when you see that, because you know it could be your child. Some of these schools, the shooter's not looking at anyone's color or race, he's just killing. And so the pain that a European feels is the same pain that an Israelite feels today. I'm not calling them a black person, because they're not a black person. They have a nationality, they have an ethnicity just like everyone else. That's part of the problem why our prisons are filled up, because our youth know that they do not have this understanding of identity and ethnicity that everyone else has. They don't get the opportunity to study their language when they go to get school. They don't learn their values, the values of the Torah, which many Europeans study, and they live a high standard of righteousness. That's what we were designated and chosen to be, a people of righteousness, a people that understood and lived by the laws that were given to Moses on Mount Sinai, that we are to live by forever. It's an eternal law, and that we have abandoned it, and the punishment became an enslavement among the nations. Many of the things that we are experiencing are the violations and the wrongs that we did to one another. And so that we have to come to a point where we sit down, we investigate, we analyze our situation, our experiences of people, and we make the changes, because it's already prophesied that we are going to change our ways, and we're going to return to the righteous path that was given to us. This consciousness is even being witnessed on the planet today. Many people are now realizing that something is terribly wrong. And you have to be blind to not see that something is terribly wrong amongst humanity. This is a humanitarian problem that we have on the planet today. It's not affecting one race or one people, it's affecting everyone. Every community is in turmoil, is in distress, is in pain, hurting. And so that we have to go back to understand the truth of the Bible and realize that the Creator never gave us religion. This is not about religion. It's about the truth. What is the truth of the Bible? Who are the true people of the Bible? Because the experience of the Negro is a lesson to all mankind. It shows you what happens to a people that reject the laws, the statutes, and the commandments of the Creator. That's why many times I say, as I'm going to say in Hebrew, and then I'll translate it, Selak lanu, kol ha'am ashir al ha'adama, ki lo asinu ha'devar ashir Eloheinu Yehovah debar imanu. The Creator told our people, the so-called Negro, to be a light unto the nations. If we had upheld the principles of the laws of the Creator, it would have helped all mankind. Many religions would not exist today if all mankind knew that there's a spirit, the breath of life, that is in every one of us. This spirit of the Creator is the source of every human being and every living thing that breathes. The animals, even though they're instinct animals and they live by an instinct, they live by stimulus rather than thinking, intelligence. That's the difference. But they too die. They can lose a foot or an arm. Man has no preeminence above a beast. The same thing happens to an animal, to a beast. It can happen to a human being. And you all go into the ground, for from dust thou art, unto dust we return. And so that we have to acquire the truth of how our Creator intended for us to live on this planet. And that we must embrace and once again bring the Creator into education, because when you have the Creator in education, you teach the youth from their inception of learning that dedication to our Creator is the highest education. We have a problem on the planet today because we're not dedicated to the one who put us here, the one who gave us the instructions of how to live and how to have peace and harmony and happiness, how to do unto your neighbor as you would have them do unto you, how to again live in justice and fairness from the home level, community level, the national level, the international level. This is the void that is on the planet today. And so my message is to all mankind. Yes, in particular, my people. Charity begins at home. We must know this because we play a vital role. We influence people with rap music and have Europeans into the worst type of rap that you can think of. We have them wearing their caps backwards and pants below the waist. Why can't we influence them for righteousness, with intelligence, with brotherhood and sisterhood and familyhood and a love for one another? This was our purpose. It still is. It's never going to change. We just have to return to the character that the Creator intended for us. We are living out of character. We are not drug dealers. We are not pimps. We are not thugs. We should not be in prisons. And to those youth that are in those prisons, I just hope that they can get this message, because they have to be rehabilitated with truth. Unless you give them these types of teachings, they're going to come out of jail and return to the same neighborhoods, and they're going to end up back in jail again because they're just being a real cycle. Because if you don't change your thinking, you're not going to change your behavior. We have to change our thinking. Everyone on the planet has to rethink this terrible situation that we're in. I'm hoping and praying that what I've said to you will be helpful to my people, to all the people on the planet Earth. It's crucial. We have to study our Hebrew language. There are people that teach Hebrew. It should be offered in primary, secondary school. It's a holy language. You can't say 4-letter curse words in Hebrew. It's a holy tongue. And we have to go back and understand our own language. There are no people on the face of this earth that do not have a language. The Negro has a language. It's Ivrit. It's the Hebrew language as they pronounce it in English. When you learn it, you have a gift to communicate with your own people like other people do. And that's the heartbeat of a nation, to know your language. Because you have to know that when you get nationality, you get a language, you get a culture, we get values, we get morals. In the Torah are all those things that we lost when we came into slavery. You have to realize that in that you get a homeland. When you know your nationality, you get, again, a history that is yours and peculiar to yourself, even though all history is connected. All mankind history is connected. If you go back to the beginning, we're all connected. And so that it's very important that we have this understanding. The Creator said, get wisdom, get knowledge, but above all, you have to have the right understanding. I hope and pray that this will light the light bulbs that have been dimmed Some of us are in darkness when it comes to our consciousness. And I'm hoping that this will stimulate the minds of everyone to just consider these words, investigate it. Truth is verifiable. You can verify what I'm saying by going investigating and looking into your Bible and reading and studying. You can see that truth is observable. The Creator made heaven and earth, the sun to rule the day, and the moon and stars to rule by night. It's verifiable. He said that from dust thou art, unto dust thou shalt return. It's verifiable. Truth is verifiable. It's not something that where everybody's right. Lies can be proven. That's why when you go to a court, they look for the facts. If you investigate the facts of what I'm speaking about here, you will know for surety, not believe. I'm not speaking about belief. I'm speaking about knowing the truth and knowing and understanding that this can be true, proven, just like in a court of law. They don't ask about opinions, because your opinion don't matter in what I'm speaking about. Is your opinion aligned with the truth? Is your opinion aligned with the facts of history, of the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth? May the Holy One of Israel bless you. Modim Rabbim Aleka, Elohe Avraham Yitzchak Yisrael. Namelim ha'ele ashirata natatali lidabir la'am ha'aretz. Tiverek bekol ha'aretz. Wahequim et kol amka Yisrael. Wativerek otanu, ot pa'am lashuv laka. Wagam lishmor le'ekwev wala'asot et toratka. I hope you've been inspired to study, to learn what I've just said. May the Most High bless you. Toda Rabah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.